Well, that was a bust. Alright, take two. This is story time with ScorpionZam. I am your host, ScorpionZam, and I will be reading a Christmas story today. This first one, something I was read to as a child, back when I was a little it's a classic poem by Clement Clark Moore. It's called "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." Here we go. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads, and Mamma in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out in the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters, and threw up a sash. The moon on the breast of the new-fallen snow gave the lustre of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eye should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver, so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle mount to the sky. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with the sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my hand and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came in a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes how they twinkled, his dimples how merry, his cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of the pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a round little belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of the eye, a twist of his head, soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, then with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night." Wasn't that wonderful? It's a great little story, I think. All right. So this next story is it's one of my favorites as I was a kid. It's called "The Trolls and the Great Big Cat: A Norwegian Tale" by Amy Friedman and Meredith Johnson. Now, this is quite a different version than I was read growing up, but hey, you can't have your cake and eat it too. All right. So, it goes like this. Once upon a time, in a village in the snowy Norwegian mountains, there lived a tailor and his family. Every year during the holiday season, the trolls moved into their house. They were so difficult that the family had to move away and the trolls took over. Each year, hoping that this would be the last, the family prepared their house for the invasion of the trolls. They set their big table with sweets and sausages, fish and fruit, cakes and cream and porridge. They left behind great jugs of wine and beer. But every year the same thing happened. The trolls were greedy and heartless creatures. Some of them were big and tall with legs as long as tree trunks. Some were tiny with long twisty tails. Some had no tails at all, but had instead big, bulbous noses. Some had eyes like black marbles that rolled in the sockets. Some were cruel and monstrously fat. Some were small and shrunken. But they had one thing in common. They loved to eat and drink. And they could never get enough. Every year after the trolls had eaten everything on the table, and after they had drunk up every last drop in the jugs, they began to search the house for more. They turned over the furniture and tore apart the pillows and quilts. They ripped up the tailor's material and spilled his pins. They unspooled his threads, they climbed the curtains and tossed books and trinkets in their search for more. But every year they destroyed the house. One day, not long before Christmas, an animal trainer was passing through town, and he stopped and knocked upon the tailor's door. When the tailor answered, the trainer said, "Please, sir, would you be kind enough to offer my pet—" It should be I, but it says me. "Would you be kind enough to offer my pet and me a place to stay?" "Ah," the tailor sighed. "It's fine for you to stay the night, but tomorrow we leave. The trolls will be coming. Every holiday season they'd take over our house." "I don't mind trolls," the trainer said. "We're so cold, my pet and I, we'd just like to be warm." And with that, an enormous white bear stepped from behind the trainer. When the tailor saw this bear, he stepped back in fear. He had never been so near such a big bear. The animal trainer said quickly, "Please don't worry, he's very well trained." And that big white bear bowed hello to the tailor. Outside, the snow was falling in sheets and the wind was roaring, and the sky was forbidding. The tailor's heart went out to the trainer and his bear. "Please, both of you, come in for the night," he said. "So we shall," the trainer said, and in he walked, the bear right behind. They curled up beside the wood stove, and there they happily warmed their faces and their feet. They were happy to have a roof over their heads. The very next morning, the tailor, his wife, and their children packed their bags. "We're leaving," they said to the trainer. "The trolls will be here any moment now. You'll want to be going too." The animal trainer shook his head. "Perhaps we could stay?" He had no desire to leave the warmth of the wood stove, and neither did his big white bear. "But the trolls," the tailor cautioned. The trainer waved away at the tailor's concerns. "I'm a trainer, remember? We'll be just fine. Perhaps I'll even train the trolls." The tailor laughed at the thought, but he left the trainer and his bear behind. And a few hours later, the trolls came. They roared into the house and quickly gobbled up the sweets and sausages, the porridges and the creams. They downed the jugs of wine and beer. Then suddenly, one of the tiny trolls spotted two big eyes staring out from under the stove. Curious, he picked up a sausage and walked towards the stove. "Here, kitty, kitty," he said, holding out the sausage, and poked the bear on the nose. At that, the bear emerged from beneath the stove, stood upon his hind legs, and let out a tremendous roar. At that sound, the trolls turned and saw the monster, bigger than the biggest troll, with longer claws and sharper teeth and rounder eyes. They shrieked and dropped their plates and cups and bowls. "Watch out!" cried the grandfather troll, and one after the other they raced out the door. When the holidays were done, the tailor and his family returned home. But when they opened the door, the tailor could not believe his eyes. The house was in perfect order. The table stood sweets and sausages, porridge and cream, jugs of wine and beer. It was as if nothing had been disturbed. Even the trainer and his bear were gone. A few weeks later, the tailor was walking through the woods when suddenly he heard a voice calling from behind a grove of pines. "Tailor," the voice cried, "is that you?" The tailor recognized the voice of the grandfather troll. "It is," he answered, and his heart sank, for he had hopes those trolls were long gone. "Do you still have that big cat of yours?" asked the grandfather troll. That's when the tailor understood. He held back a smile. "I do," he said. "She's still lying under the stove." "And she will be there next holiday season?" asked the troll. "Indeed she will," the tailor said. "And soon she'll be having kittens, so there will be many more cats there." "You shan't be seeing us again, then," the troll cried. And there was silence. And sure enough, the trolls never again appeared in the Norwegian mountains. Let that be a lesson to any trolls out there. Don't go raiding Norwegian tailors' homes for food and wine and beer and stuff.